Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome to Apex Racing TV's presentation of the Radical Sim Racing European Championship. J.R. Gregory here with you on the call, spelling Sam Fitzpatrick today. Beside me in the commentary booth, my partner Aaron Smith, and the brains of the operation, pushing all the buttons, twisting the dials, taking care of all these great camera shots and replays, our producer, Louis Araya. And the star of today's show, the fantastic Radical SR10. 425 horsepower, only 725 kilos, no traction control, and no anti-lock brakes. And if you haven't had a chance to drive this spectacular car, I highly recommend it. It is a thrill. It'll make you better at every car that you drive. And just a reminder, we broadcast the top split of the public Radical server every Friday, 2100 GMT, if you'd like to appear with us here on Apex Racing TV. And today's action is going to include two races, a 15-minute heat race, which will set the stage for a 45-minute feature. And yeah, we are here at Road America Round 6. Road America located outside the picturesque village of Elkhart Lake in the Kettle Moraine region of Wisconsin. In the early 50s, the area had been host to sports car races conducted on ad hoc circuits made up of linked sections of county roadways, but safety concerns ended open road racing and led to the construction of Road America in 1955. And as we approach its 70-year history, Road America plays host to NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and a full slate of amateur track days. Today's configuration, a hefty 4 miles or 6.5 clicks, 14 corners, and the current track record is a 141.874 set all the way back in 1998 by Alex Zanardi in a Renard kart car. And real quick, a shout out to my partner, Aaron. Aaron, you were my first commentating partner here at Apex Racing TV, and on my first broadcast I was afraid to speak, and oh my goodness, how times have changed. But as we head here into this race, two things leap out at me about Radicals at Road America. One is the draft, and the other one, I think, in the 45-minute race is going to be tire management. So what are you going to be watching for in today's events?
But you've pretty much hit the nail on the head there. And like you mentioned, that first race is kind of just a stepping stone, a bit of a teaser for what we're going to get in that 45-minute race. And it's just a chance for everyone to get a feel for each other, understand who's quick and who's not, understand where the best overtaking opportunities will be, and kind of understand how people are feeling going into this round. And then that big feature race at the end is all about that tyre and fuel management, especially around a track like this where tyres can be a bit tricky to manage. as you head through the likes of the carousel, which can be absolutely damning on those outside tyres and will destroy them if you don't look after them enough. Fuel saving, I don't think, should be too much of a problem. Like you mentioned, the slipstream round here is very, very potent and provides some good racing as well. On lap 1 in both races, it should be fantastic to watch them all fly through that first sector all the way up to about turn 6. And it's going to be very, very entertaining to see who will come out on top. But before we get going in the race, we have got the qualifying session to come up in a few minutes' time, which will be interesting to say the least. But before we get into that, I guess we have time to go through some points.
Yeah, let's take a look at those season standings. And thank you, Lewis. We got 2 classes here, the Pro and Am class, and those will be, if you're joining us for the first time, you'll be able to tell those apart on our timing tower by color. And the Pro class, as you see there, is in green. And in P1, I would not say safe at all, only 3 points ahead, but Christoph Lipp, they're holding the P1 position, followed by Andreas Friedrich and James Barry, your top 3, followed by John Hutchinson and Sorensen. And my gosh, Aaron, look at those top 3, only 10 points separating the podium. So by no means is that set for the season. P6 is Kettle Larson, just Strumbach there in P8, Karakopolis in 8. Jorge Gonzaga will be followed by Carr Lundy to round out the top 10 in Pro, followed by Bjorklund, Scarrett, Sebastian Lipp, the other of the 2 Lips here on the track today. Myron Iani will be in 14. Lucas Rees in 15. Reitinen, Bussin, and Bremer will round out the top 18 positions in the Pro class. Oh, well, a little scroll there caught me off guard, and that is Paul LeMay taking up the rear there in P19. And your AM standings up next.
Well, going through the AM standings, it's been a bit more dominant than the Pro standings. It's Tom Euler at the top on 112 points. He's been the dominant force so far, but a couple rounds has slipped his way. I think it was at Interlagos, one of the big ones where he could have absolutely just run away with it. But a couple incidents here and there just meant that he isn't quite as dominant as he probably should be, but he's definitely still the quickest one in the amateurs and probably the favourite to win that championship overall. But don't count out the likes of Lalive, who have always been there in case something goes awry in Tom Euler's way. Berger as well has been up there a couple times this season. Adam Locke as well, been a bit on and off this season, and everyone else has got a little bit of catching up to do. But like you mentioned, in that Pro category, it is super, super close. And that's the kind of reward you get when you get a point system like we have in this championship, where it really does reward consistency. And, like we mentioned a few times, some drivers just, having 1 or 2 bad rounds, and it can cut their championship lead down very, very quickly. And, even though Christoph Lipp, who's leading the championship in the Pros, has won 7 out of 10 races, he's just had a couple rounds where he literally has finished almost last because of 1 or 2 incidents, which has allowed the other drivers to catch back up and give us a tasty, tasty championship all the way until the end.
Yeah, and looking forward to seeing more of that action unfolding today for sure. And qualifying just underway now. We're on kind of a lengthy outlap, so it'll be a little bit here before we get some times down. But we are certainly looking for Lipp to be putting down some scorchers out here. We should be seeing some fast times from the likes of Barry, Friedrich, and others of our frequent flyers here. And taking a look now. Who are we seeing? Oh, yeah, there is Christoph Lipp. The team Lipp train. Yeah, I like that. And here he comes, that critical turn 14. Got to get a good exit here to blast up that hill and take a heater down that long front straightaway into turn 1. So we'll see Lipp take the green flag here for his first qualifying lap. And yeah, we are expecting to see some raucous times out of him and the other competitors up at the front.
Absolutely, 100%. And Road America, for me, is one of the most important tracks when it comes to qualifying. As even though this is a fairly long circuit, should be around 2 minutes in these SR10s, give or take. There's not actually that many corners here to gain that much time on. It's, like you mentioned, 6.5 kilometers, and yet there's only 14 corners. And compare that to some other tracks, it's relatively short, to be honest. But yeah, like round here, there's not really too many corners as well that can gain you that much time. It's always super, super close round here, which is why for me, it's definitely one of my favorite tracks. Just in general, I absolutely love coming here in Road America, no matter what cars we're driving. Formula 3, Formula 4, IndyCar, GTPs. It's just always a joy to drive and race around here. And especially hot lapping, it's pretty good as well. Although I will say, as we just come through turn 6, that is one of my least favorite corners ever. An uphill blind left-hander. And, well, if you snatch a wrong breakthrough there, you're done. You're in the grass, you're in the barrier, or you're crashing into the car ahead of you.
Yeah, turn 6, so tough. And I've put down many laps here. And anytime I sit down to do laps at Road America, doing a better job at turn 6 is always at the top of my list. It has a blind apex over the rise there, and a very kind of awkward transition from going uphill to flat and on the brakes and turning. And yeah, it can be an absolute mess. And I'll tell you, the Radical race on Friday, we saw nonstop action there, Aaron. And the reason is that entry to turn 5 is so wide. If there was tight racing going on heading into turn 5, one competitor would try to cover the inside, leaving that super wide outside entry open, and that would lead to a switchback and more side-by-side into turn 6. So we had a fantastic race in the public server on Friday, and really looking forward to more of the same. And holy moly, there is Christoph Lipp on his first of 4 qualifying laps, already broken the 2-minute barrier with a 1:59.5, and Geschrumbach and Gonzaga and Barry all looking way up at Lipp, who has lit the wick. Holy cow. And that time is only going to drop as the tires reach their optimal temperature and we get a little more fuel burned off. So Lipp throwing down the gauntlet here early as expected.
I mean, he just has been one of the fastest drivers we've seen across this entire season. Like I've said, though, a couple times, he has had a few incidents in the races, whether or not it's been his fault. It's been a bit on and off. Some incidents have sort of been unavoidable, but he has occasionally made the mistake during the race. But yeah, 7 out of 10. I don't think I have a leg to stand on in terms of criticizing that man whatsoever. And like you mentioned, he's already got quite a big gap up at the top at the moment. And judging by the sector times, it doesn't look like anyone on this second lap is really getting close to him at the moment. Other drivers who we'd expect to be sort of close to him, like Andreas Friedrich, currently in P6, 6/10 off his championship rival. And that is huge. James Barry as well, like we've mentioned, is another competitor. He's sitting third, 10 points behind Christoph Lipp, but has never been that good in qualifying. It's always in the races where James Barry has genuinely been incredible. One of the best fuel savers I have ever seen. He can put in a pit stop and a half. So just wait until we get to that feature race and you will see James Barry. If he can keep it on the track, which a couple of times this season he hasn't been able to, but if he can, his pit stop times are just something to behold.
Yeah, and the fuel strategy is going to be interesting here. And here's where we're going to get nerdy on some fuel calculations. These radicals are going to burn about 2.75 liters per lap, and the fill time is 2 liters per second. So bear with me here for a second. If you can use fuel save to save 2 laps, you're going to save 3 seconds in the pits. And as this race unfolds, you're going to see these cars nose to tail for the majority of the race. So that 3-second difference in the pit stop can really move you up. And the draft, Aaron, it's super fun to get a draft on the front straight and blow past somebody like they're pulling an anchor, but that's not the only way the draft can help you. The draft can definitely help you save fuel. So if you see somebody passing on those easy passes into turn 1, lifting and coasting, they may have some fuel saving in mind. And as you said, Barry, a master at that. And as qualifying ticks on, looks like Barry's now sitting about 0.55 behind Lipp. I was kind of expecting a little quicker time out of him. He's got a couple laps left, but qualifying is ticking down, and Lipp hanging on to that 0.3 advantage over P2. And right as I say that, Andreas Friedrich lays down a heater, and now that gap is only 0.17 between Lipp and Friedrich in P2.
Well, that's more like it from Friedrich, isn't it? Like I mentioned, a championship rival. And at first he was 6/10 off Christoph Lipp, and now he's only about just over a tenth behind Lip, which is definitely a big improvement, but still a little bit way to go. And he definitely will be hoping and praying on that slipstream in both races to keep him in that fight with Christoph Lip. But they've got, Frederick's got about a lap to go on this qualifying run before it comes to an end. I think Lip might be on his last lap as well. It's very difficult to tell at the moment since it is such a just huge lap time around here. Gordon Haug as well, sitting in 16th place. There's Lip extending his gap at the top even further, and I think that will be his last lap, as when this session comes to an end, it comes to a dead stop, so they will not be able to finish their lap time. It's just the end. You have to come back to the pits. As quick mention to Lelive as well, who I was mentioning earlier on, 6th place in an AM right now, only half a second off. Oh, that's Mellis going for a spin down into Canada corner, and that will be his qualifying session over. And I've also just realized, speaking of the AMs, Tom Euler is not here today, so definitely a huge opportunity for the likes of Lelive to gain on his championship rival, and well, maybe that AM championship could open up after all.
And my goodness, Lelive, what a heater. He's only a half a second back of Lip. And look at some of those names behind him. Strumbach, Barry, Kyriakopoulos. I mean, those guys are no slouches. Lelive throwing down the gauntlet for the AMs with that. What is his time? Let me switch. Multitask here, 1:59.8. So Lelive means business, and Locke not that far behind him at about 2.25 seconds.
Just realised something as well. The fact that Lip has just been steadily improving his time over the course of this qualifying session. Had Lip actually just continued with the lap he set on his first lap, I think he would be third right now. So it's taken Friedrich and Sorensen an extra 2 laps to match up to his first qualifying lap, which just goes to show how just rapid Christoph Lip is in qualifying. Race it's a little bit closer, but if you let Lip extend that gap at the top, he will run away with it, and you cannot let him do that. You have to stay close to him, stay in that slipstream, otherwise it's going to be pretty much game over.
Yeah, absolutely. And that will be interesting to watch the first lap, as we make our way around, working our way to turn 14 onto the front straight. Is Lip going to be able to stretch that gap? You need to be within about 0.8 to take advantage of that draft and not let Lip drive away, which he has done week in and week out here. But here's our starting grid. We have Lip next to Andreas Friedrich in row 1. It'll be Sorensen and Larson behind them. Ianni and Gonzaga in row 3. Lelevre with that super heater for the AM class. Great job by him next to Strumbach, and Barry all the way back in P9 next to another AM driver, Adam Locke. Kim Andre Bjorklund next to Solly Wrighton in there in 11 and 12. Kyriakopoulos in 13 next to Berger. My cousin Craig Gregory next to Gordon Haug. Christopher Alderholt next to Damian G in 17 and 18. Stensrud next to DeGroff in 19 and 20. Robertson next to Mellis in 21 and 22. And Alexander Scarrett will bring up the rear here in P23. So as we wait for the lights to tick down, we're still missing a couple of drivers before iRacing forces the start, but Christoph Lip will have the inside line into turn 1 and a slight advantage there with Friedrich and Sorensen struggling to keep up. And something interesting about this, Aaron, a little bird told me that Friedrich has recently obtained a new clutch setup on his rig, and the result of that has been some smoldering work off of the line. Of course, this is a standing start race on cold tires, and Friedrich has got his setup dialed in to launch that Radical. So we'll take a look at him coming off the line and see if he might be able to wiggle ahead of Lip here on the launch, and looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Yeah, 100%. The start in these cars is very, very crucial. They're very susceptible to wheel spin. But we're about to get underway here at Road America.
And the lights ticking down. That is Lip and the number 6 car on the left. And
Oh,
Friedrich,
dear.
the commentator's
It's not
curse. How did I do that again? I will never learn. And Friedrich drops like a rock. He is still dropping. Oh my goodness. And it's going to be Sorensen from Larson from Lip. Lip not getting away clean either, with Gonzaga and Lelevre jumping all the way up into P5. Some fantastic starts for some of these drivers, and some horrific ones for, frankly, some drivers we were expecting a lot out of on the start. And apologies to Friedrich for that curse. Yikes.
Yeah, I think yikes is probably the best way to describe it. Second all the way down to 10th. That's going to be heartbreak for Friedrich. That's not good for his championship hopes at all. The only thing he can hope for is that Lip didn't have a fantastic start either. Down into turn 5 we go. This is one of the greatest overtaking opportunities on the entire track, especially on this first lap. Cars still going side by side uphill to the blind crest of turn 6. We've managed to get through this first lap relatively clean. I saw Scarrett also started from the pit lane further back, so he's got a bit of ground to make up. De Graaf, I think, was the only driver out of the entire field to have a bit of a slippery slope and go for a half spin. There's a send down into turn 8 there from Mellis on Robertson, and he managed to get the car stopped and gain a position after he had a pretty poor qualifying. He gained a place there, but yeah, there's literally only one driver on the entire field that has managed to stay exactly where they started, and that's Sauli Raitanen, who's currently in 12th place. Everyone else is absolute chaos as we go through the kink of turn 11. We're now 3 wide as we head down to Canada Corner, nearly 4 wide. They're going to have to be so careful as James Barry's being punched around the outside and all fell all the way down to 9th place briefly, but now's got back up to 8th ahead of Friedrich. And wow, that was super close. I don't know how on earth they all managed to get through there. They were about 4 wide going into Canada Corner. I've never seen someone do that into there and come out alive. So fair play from those guys.
Absolutely, and I might have to ask for a replay on Bjorklund there in the red car coming down the back straight. He looked like he passed 2 or 3 cars there and has now jumped up 5 positions to be sitting currently in P6. So something going on there. The kerfuffle coming out of the kink. That was truly nuts. And meanwhile, up front, it is still Sorensen from Larson from Lip as your top 3, followed by Gonzaga. Lelevre doing a great job defending that P5 in the AM class, and he actually has a substantial gap behind him, 2 seconds back to Bjorklund. And wow, what an interesting start. Super clean start, which is good to see. And the shuffling is just insane. Friedrich has fallen 7 positions. He's the number 1 dropper there after that super potent commentator's curse with me bragging about his start. And there's some swap of position there into turn 6, Aaron's favorite corner. And man, the nonstop action here on this sprint race. We don't care about the tires. They only have to last 15 minutes. We are beating these cars to death right now.
Yeah, that's basically the best way you can describe this first race, isn't it? Just, you have to leave this race with absolutely nothing left. No fuel, no tires, and preferably nothing left on the car either. You have to use everything you can to try and get ahead of your opponent, and especially for drivers like Friedrich, where it is so important now that he has to make up ground. And he's lost so much time. The best he can probably hope for at the moment is P6, as Bjorklund has dropped a long way back off Lelevre. And also mentioned to Lelevre, he's keeping up with the guys ahead as we head back into Canada Corner. And that's super close between Greschenbach and Friedrich, as it looks like Friedrich is seeing a bit of red mist right now. He's frustrated that his clutch has turned into Swiss cheese, and he's trying to find any way he can round Greschenbach, but just cannot do it through this last sector. It's not really any overtaking opportunities from about Canada Corner to the penultimate corner, so he's just going to have to be a bit patient, wait for this main straight, and he's pulling to the outside, interestingly enough. He's using the side draft, trying to get ahead of the Norwegians. We head into turn 1. What's Greschenbach going to do? Is he going to fight this position? He's got James Barry behind. He lets Friedrich go, but Friedrich's gone very wide, and Friedrich's nearly gone off the circuit, and that's going to be pain, even more pain for Friedrich, as he falls down to 11th place now. Absolute heartbreak for the driver who's meant to be fighting for a championship today.
Oh my goodness. And things go from bad to worse from Friedrich. And yeah, you're right. He's seen the red mist. He tried to make the outside work into turn one. He overcooks that entry into the kitty litter. And Friedrich has now fallen. Oh, now there's something else going on. My goodness, Friedrich had fallen and is now shooting up.
Oh,
He's
Friedrich's
all over
gone.
my timing tower right now. He may be off.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. He's completely gone, and we'll get to that after. But look at this racing between these guys. This was on the first lap, that 4 wide moment nearly down into Canada corner. James Barry was being bullied there by Gerstenbakum, and Bjorkland managed to get ahead of all of them. And the gap that opened up between Bjorkland and Leliva is just too big of a gap now to make up. As, well, I said 3.5 seconds. But Friedrich, my word, this race has just been, I don't even know. It's just words I can't actually say on YouTube. I nearly just used much profanity there. But here's what happened to Friedrich then. I think this is the last time on Sully Reiten, and round the outside. That's far too deep through there. And well, we were talking about the red mist, and well, I think he's seen something else, to be honest, because that was far too deep. That's the second time on that lap that he's messed up his braking. I don't quite know what's going on with Friedrich, but well, he's down in 20th, and, well, that's going to be the end of his heat race, probably.
Boy, it absolutely is. And Friedrich down 18. That is a record that you want to forget after this one, but my goodness. And great camera work on that replay. You saw Bjorklund having to cut through the grass to make that big pass happen on the back straight. Fantastic stuff. And meanwhile, up front, it is Sorensen from Larson, from Lip, from Gonzaga. Lelibre hanging on to that P5, putting in a heroic drive out of the pro class. And Sorensen, yeah, quite a tight train there up front. Sorensen from Larson, from Lip now, heading down the Marine sweep into turn 5. You see the people up front there trying to cover the inside, and that will leave the switchback open, as I said before. And here's some more shuffling. And who is that? That's Reitinen testing the inside, and he's got maybe my cousin Gregory trying to follow him through. And that is going to happen potentially into turn 6. Or is that Gregory being passed there? Starting to lose track of things in the excitement there.
Yeah, it's insane in the midfield right now. You've got the battling between Bjorkland and Iani right now, and then this huge train pretty much for the top 10 spots. But I believe Reitinen has just managed to pull away from the cars behind now, and it's just left to these guys to try and make their way through this huge pack of cars. It's fantastic for racing, but in terms of time lost, it's well, absolutely huge. We're just about halfway through this race now. It's flown by in these opening laps. But up at the top, it's still Sorensen who leads Larson, sorry. And, well, you got 2 teammates leading 1 and 2 at the moment. And they're definitely going to want to work together to get ahead and stay ahead of Lip and Gonzaga as well. Gonzaga, by the way, has come out of absolutely nowhere. He's had a bit of an up and down season. And, I think Friedrich has had some extra problems as he's had another off and has lost about 7 seconds, and he's now down to 21st. So Friedrich is going to be treating this race as a complete write-off. He's now battling with De Graaf for 22nd place. That's definitely not what he wants, as there goes Lip up on the inside of Larson. That's going to be contact. And Larson has been sent round off into the gravel, and Larson somehow has managed to keep it facing just about the right way, where he's going to tumble down the order. He's now going to fall into this pack between Bjorkland and Iani, and he's going to slot nicely ahead of Barry. And, well, I don't quite know what happened there. I don't know if Larson... It looked like an aggressive defense from Larson into turn 1, but Lip, maybe a bit of an over-optimistic move. We're going to take another look at it. Here we go then. Lip's tucked nicely into the slipstream. Look at the overspeed that he's got. Incredible stuff from the German. And it looked like Larson kind of turned into him there. I'm not quite sure on that one.
It did. The first look, I was going to call it a dive from Lip, but I'm not so sure now. And in the meantime, after that contact and after that kerfuffle into turn 1, you were just mentioning Jorge Gonzaga, and look at him up into P2. And I haven't been following this series, unfortunately, that closely, but that's got to be one of his better finishes on the season.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Gonzaga's had a bit of a topsy-turvy season, but it looks like Road America seems to be his forte as he's come here. It looks pretty quick. He's already got top 5 in that qualifying, and well, now is looking potentially at a race win. We'll obviously see what happens over the next 5 and a bit minutes, but it's definitely on for him. As long as he can stay in the slipstream of Sorensen up front, it's going to be tough, as Lip looks to have a lot of speed, but just keeps getting stuck behind cars that he knows he's quicker than. As we cut back to the battle now. This is again that Bjorklund train, as Bjorklund has shown some remarkable progress in this SR10. I do remember, commentating over him in the early days of this car. And, he's come from a long way. He used to be at the back of the pack a lot of the times, and now he's fighting pretty much up at the front fairly regularly. So fair play for the Norwegian. And he's defending nicely from Gresham-Barken and Larson at the moment, as Gresham-Barken tried to look up the inside, now tries to look around the outside into turn 3, but that's not the best overtaking opportunity around this track, admittedly. You've got to get a good exit round here, get a good exit onto this back straight, get the slipstream down into turn 5 as we head under the Swiss Bridge. And what is Iani going to do, is he's kind of at the back of this pack, just watching in awe as Gresham-Barken nearly wanted to go on the grass there. Now looking towards the outside of turn 5, but it looks like Bjorklund's covered that one nicely, still trying to defend towards the inside. But I think that's going to be the end of Gresham-Barken's attack on this lap anyway, as Bjorklund is doing an amazing job of defending this 5th place. It will be, I believe, one of his best finishes this season. And again, I'd just like to mention Leliva in 4th as an AM. That's genuinely ridiculous. I don't know how he's managing to hold on to that position. He's in his own little world. He's 3 seconds behind Lip and 4.5 seconds ahead of Bjorklund. He's just absolutely sailing along in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some stellar driving going on that train that runs from Bjorklund all the way back to Iani there, a 5-car train. And folks, look at our timing tower there. And if you haven't picked up on this, the orange numbers there are intervals under 0.5. The yellow are intervals under 1 second. And that is painted our entire timing tower. And that really kind of encapsulates how these radical races can be when they're at their best. Cars nose to tail, all these side-by-side maneuvers. Fantastic racing week in and week out, and we hope you're enjoying it. I'm certainly enjoying the call here, and here we are riding along with Bjorklund, getting back onto that long front straightaway. Only 3 minutes left, probably going to be 1 or 2 laps remaining. Bjorklund here looking back at Gresham-Barken. You see him trying to cover the inside. Gresham-Barken's going to stuff it in anyway, gets in the grass, and ends in tragedy. They are both in the kitty litter, and that 5-car party is over. Poor judgment by Gresham-Barken there, I'm sorry to say.
No, I 100% agree with you. That was that was very, very silly. I understand he's frustrated behind Bjorklund, but that was very, very silly to try and go for that overtake. You could see that gap was closing on the inside, and he tried to go on the grass anyway, and, well, unsurprisingly, it ended in tears for both of them. And we're going to get another replay of it. And this just goes to show how powerful this slipstream is here today. It is so powerful, like genuinely ridiculously powerful. Look at the overspeed that Gresham-Barken has. And going into turn 1, yeah, that was silly to say the least from Gresham-Barken. There was no space there whatsoever. And to be honest, like I mentioned, turn 1 isn't actually that good of an overtaking opportunity around here, as it just leaves you vulnerable going on that back straight into turn 5. So you may as well just be patient.
Yeah, and my ears are melting a little bit from some salty
Gonzaga's
exchanges on iRacing comms. And what has happened? You're right, Gonzaga has snuck through. We're going to get a replay of that while we were talking about that kerfuffle with Gresham-Barken. We'll see what happens with Gonzaga. We see him here. He's looking forward at Sorensen, going under the bridge into turn 6. And what happens here? Oh, little wiggle, little problem. Aaron's favorite corner reaches up and bites Sorensen, and Gonzaga is going to get through. And if we stayed with that just a minute longer, we'd say Lip go through as well. Right now, it's Gonzaga from Lip from Sorensen. Jorge Gonzaga on the white flag is in P1 with a substantial gap. Wow, congratulations to him. I've spoken to him many times after races. He's the most cheerful, happy guy, and I'll tell you right now, he is grinning from ear to ear at this moment. And yeah, here you see Lip finishing off Sorensen, who has had a very painful lap going from the lead. Little error in the ending up down in P3. Although he didn't take that lion down, did he? He's still pushing. Oh my goodness. And here they are coming out of turn 14 onto the front straight for the last time. But Jorge Gonzaga, my goodness, +5. And Gonzaga, if he can keep it on the track, is going to take the win. That is awesome for him in this heat race.
Yeah, absolutely. It's taken, you'd say, a tiny bit of luck for him to get there, but you know what? You had to be there as a car that's gone. Oh no, is that Lelive? I think it is, after such an amazing drive. And well, you know, what corner did he make the mistake at? It was into turn 6, of course it was. And we're going to take a look at the replay of what happened to your amateur race leader. And although he is still in the lead of the AMS class, just a tiny bit on the grass, and that is heartbreak for Lelive on the last lap, and that's just let a couple points go to slip. And, well, like I said, he still will be leading in the AMS, but just enough, and just let a couple points go to the wayside, unfortunately. And, well, look at the gap at the top. Lip has managed to close up to half a second, but I don't think it's going to be enough. As long as Gonzaga just gets a good exit, this race will be his as he comes through the final corner. Lip will try and get a good exit and get that slipstream. And it's as powerful as that slipstream is, it just won't be enough to catch up to this Portuguese man who's looking at his first race victory of the season. It's been a fantastic drive from Jorge Gonzaga, who crosses the line to win here in Road America in this first heat race. Sorensen, after leading for so long, ends up in 3rd place. Larson as well, who was in 2nd, ends up in 4th. James Barry, a pretty decent performance by him. He was in the mix of all of that midfield battling, ends up P5. Iani as well was 9th and then ended up 6th. Lelive was 4th for so long and just ended up a tiny mistake has put him down to P7. Reitonen as well, impressive P8 from him. Locke gets 2nd in that amateur category. And your cousin, Craig Gregory, gets P10 in the end. Good performance by the Brit. And I'd say that's a good opener for what we're going to get in that feature race, as Friedrich as well ended up finishing 17th from 2nd. And, well, JR, I think it's best if you don't talk about Friedrich ever again.
Yeah, and I'm composing my condolence and apology card to him right now, and it's going to be a lavish apology. That is the worst commentator's curse I've ever seen. Look, Friedrich at one point was down 21 positions during that one, and oh, by the way, Christoph Lipp broke into the 158s. His fast lap on that last lap was a 158.8. So obviously we'll be looking at him in the 45-minute feature race after a short break here. But Aaron, why don't you run through the results here?
Will do. Well, it's Jorge Gonzaga who, like I mentioned, has had a bit of a topsy-turvy season. Ends up winning what was an absolutely fantastic first heat race that we have for you today. And Christoph Lipp ends up in 2nd place. It still increases his championship lead, but he would have been hoping for another victory here today. Lasse Sorensen, once again, was leading for a long time in that first race, but just ended up falling short of the wayside, ended up in 3rd. Larson as well in 4th place. Not too bad from him. James Barry, watch out for him. Like we mentioned, his fuel strategies are just absolutely fantastic. And the rest of the grid then is Myron Iani in 6th. Doran Lelive, unfortunately, lost a few positions. Ends up in 7th place. Sauli Reitonen in 8th. Adam Locke in 9th. Craig Gregory in 10th place. Gordon Haug in 11th place. Gabriel Berger in 12th place. Dennis Kirakopoulos in 13th. Kim Andre Borkland in 14th place. Guy Robertson in 15th. Scarrett in 16th. Friedrich down in 17th. Absolutely horrid first race for him. Ole Gunnar Stenstrud in 18th place, Damien Guy in 19th, De Graaf in 20th, and then your last few drivers. 21st was Christian Barkin, unfortunate for him. Osa Holt 22nd, and Stefan Mellis is your last place man in 23rd. And everyone finished on the lead lap, which is a pretty good going for this series, to be fair. And hopefully we can get some more of that in this second race.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to the second race. It's always fun to add the fuel strategy and add the pit stops. And, I'm accustomed to calling the public server races on Fridays, 2100 GMT here on Apex Racing TV. And those races are shorter sprint races, but even at the end of those, tires can become problematic. And just want to talk about that for a second, Aaron. There's a few ways to drive these radicals. The comfortable, safe way is just to kind of ride the understeer through all these medium to high speed sweeping corners, but they will blow the front tires right off of them. And you're much better off using some trail braking to rotate the car in as many corners as you can, especially here at Road America, because on the carousel, there's no way to avoid that long, painful grind of the front tires. So since the front tires are taking so much abuse there in the carousel, you really need to trail brake every place else on the course. And if you're just getting going with these radicals, it's a beautiful trail braking car and a great one to learn that technique on. So we'll be watching out for front tire wear for sure as we get closer to the end of this 45-minute race.
I mean, these cars love to chew through tires, to be honest. They love understeer, and they love to overheat as well. So one spin, one little moment for you, and it's over. You've got a few laps to maybe cool down the tires, and locking up as well can really set those front tires alight. And yeah, you'll just be spending about two and a bit laps just trying to cool them back down again. And well, a fuel strategy is what we're going to be looking out for mostly, though, in this race, as I don't think people tend to take tyres in this series. It is very rare that we have seen that, but it definitely comes into its own once you get towards the end of the race, when those Michelins just want to just die, to be honest. There's just nothing, there's no tread left by the end of this 45-minute race. And yeah, the fuel is definitely, like you mentioned, Gregory, you know, it can save you 3 seconds in the pit stops, but out on the track, that I'd say that goes to about 6. You know, it's very difficult to tell how much time you lose into the pit lane actually costs you out on track. It's very difficult. You know, is the undercut better? Is the overcut better? We just don't know. And that's what we're going to spend the next 45 minutes trying to find out in this next race.
Yeah, and another wild card on the pit situation here at Road America is, in order to get a pit stop, you have got to come into the pits hot. And by hot, I mean you're well over 100 miles an hour in that pit entry lane before you have to get on the binders and get it slowed to below the pit speed limit before the cones. And in a car without ABS on worn tires, that can be challenging. And in terms of tires, you know, I did. Oh, and here comes the grid. But the punchline is going to be that the tire time it takes to replace them doesn't math out into opposed to what can be gained. But here is your starting grid. Jorge Gonzaga, congratulations on that pole position. Hard fought. He drove a clean race in that heat race, and it paid off. He will be in P1 next to Christoph Lipp, who, as I said, hit a 158.8 in the heat. So we're going to see more of that out of him, to be sure. Lasse Sorensen and Kjetil Larsen in 3 and 4. James Berry managed to work his way up to P5 with Iani next to him in P6. Lelevre had that little bobble, could have had a P5, ended up still in P1 for AMS though, and P7 in the heat race, which will put him in P7 here in the feature. Reitinen will be next to him in P8. And we have got Adam Locke in the next row with Craig Gregory next to him. Hausberger, Kiriakopoulos, Bjorklund, Robinson, Scarrett, Friedrich, Steinrud, G, DeGraaf, Gesturmbachen, Oderholt, and Mellis. And we are green as I fight my way through that. And here goes Gonzaga. He's going to have the inside. And Lipp gets a pretty clean start. He's probably going to back out of this and let Gonzaga have this position for now. And he does. That's going to be Gonzaga from Lipp, from Sorensen, from Larson, and we're going to have a little side-by-side here still going into turn 3, maybe 3 wide here. Somebody's taking a peek inside of Barry.
Oh, no.
And that is going to end in tears.
Oh, Lord.
And my goodness, that is a big one, and that is not what we wanted to see on lap 1, Aaron. Ouch.
No, not at all. And it looked like the smallest of touches as well on Reitinen, and it's just sent him spinning round. And well, there's been a change for the lead as well. Lipp has managed to get ahead of Gonzaga as they went down into turn 5, and is still very, very close up at the front. Bit of a gap that's opened up between Iani and Larson as Locke tumbles down the order. And I would just like to mention as well, Friedrich had an absolutely horrid start last time out, has had an absolutely dream start this time round, and it looks like he's managed to mend his clutch and actually, use it this time round. He's up to 8th, and well, what was looking like a pretty horrid race for him, it's actually, there could be some potential here for Friedrich. 8th place is pretty good, and at the moment is only about 6 seconds off of that lead, which is not too bad going. And well, we'll see what he can do over these next few laps. He's got a couple cars ahead of him that he's definitely quicker than. But interestingly enough, what can these cars do as they now have fallen behind Lip, and we've seen what he's able to do with his pace. Is Lip now just going to be able to pull away, and will it just be a battle for second on those last few points paying positions?
Yeah, and Friedrich took another one there. He gets Kirakopolis into Canada corner. So Friedrich has moved up 10, count them, 10 positions thus far. And that is all I'm going to say about that. But it is Lip from Gonzaga, from Sorensen, from Barry, from Iani is your top 5. And my goodness, we're going to take another look at that tragedy into turn 3. And Aaron, in a 45-minute race on cold tires, why, oh why, would you roll the dice going 3 wide into turn 3? It is beyond me, but we're going to get another look at that here in a moment as we watch Iani looking forward to Larson. And here comes that replay. And just take a look, folks, and be your own judge. Ooh. And then bad to worse, to worse, to worse.
Yeah, but I will mention as well, I'm quite shocked actually that not that many cars were actually involved in that. It was only about 2 or 3 in the end, and well, it was in the middle of the track on lap 1 going through turn 3. I thought that was going to be a gigantic pile-up, so fair play to everyone for managing to avoid. Looks like Robertson's had a bit of a problem coming out of turn 5 as we head through turn 6 now. He's not actually managed to go off the track. He might have gotten a slowdown, maybe gone a bit too deep into a corner. He's lost a couple places now and is down to 16th. Not the best way you want to open up this first lap. And he's about to lose another position to Stenstrud as well on this lap, and he might fall down to 17th. And while the amateur category very much heating up as Laleva's down to 19th. I didn't even notice that. Laleva's gone from 7th all the way to 19th. I did not even realize he had such a poor start. I think he was one of the cars involved in that incident with Reitinen. And, well, it's not looking good for the Frenchman.
Yeah, I think Lelivre was victimized by that pile-up that we saw in turn 3. And, oof. Yeah, they talk about cars rotating, and that's not the kind of rotation that you want. That is brutal.
Well, Lelivre's had another incident.
Yeah, he's pinballing between the barriers there on the back straight, and that Radical is a disaster. He's going to be heading back for repairs on that for sure. And meantime, Aaron, look at Friedrich now. Oh my goodness. Bam. Ooh.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing left on that Radical. Well, I mean, I did mention in the first race that you probably shouldn't have anything left on your Radical, and I think Leliva took that too seriously, and now has to come into the pit lane and get a new car probably, because in real life there is absolutely no hope that anyone is fixing that anytime soon. So Leliva, he had a decent first race, could have been amazing had he not made that mistake on that final lap. So he could gain some more points here on Eulay, but not as many as he would have hoped. And it's going to open up the likes of Gabriel Berger to try and gain some points on him. And that's contact as we head into turn 6. That's between Robertson and Mellis. A little bit of bumping there. I think it's perfectly acceptable. They seem to be racing hard but fair for 16th place. And it looks like Robertson has managed to just about get ahead of Mellis as he's got Stenstrud right behind him, and then Reitinen, who's going to be trying to come back through the field. And, well, what I was mentioning before about if you let Lip overtake you and run off into the distance, he will use that advantage, and he is doing 1.8 seconds at the moment. No one behind him is anywhere close to that slipstream, and that's probably, unless we get a mistake or a lapped car that intervenes with Christoph Lip, that's probably going to be the last we see of this man for this entire race.
Yeah, and due to all those crashes and some tows that we saw, lap cars are actually going to be on the menu. And believe it or not, Lip may be encountering one here soon. But we got a nice tight train here with Sorensen, Gonzaga, and Barry. And here's Gonzaga is going to take advantage of that slipstream. He's going to have the inside entry into turn one. He's going to get that move done easily. So now it's Lip, Gonzaga, Sorensen from Barry. And Sorensen not going to give up easily. He's going to have an opportunity down here at the end of the Moraine sweep. He might take a look inside of turn 5, but he also has to worry about James Barry, who is now all over him with about a 0.5 second gap. So fierce battle developing here for P2.
Yeah, and this is what I was mentioning now that Lip has gotten too far ahead. They know that they basically have no chance of winning this race. Like I mentioned, unless something happens, it's just too big now. Lip just has too much pace. And this is what happened to Gordon Howe. This is coming down the back straight down to turn 5. Looks, oh, he's just given up. And blown up his engine, destroyed his car. And, well, he's had enough, very clearly.
Wow, that was interesting. Do you think that was, he euthanized himself there, or some kind of mechanical failure? Ouch. Well, okay. Hausch, thanks for stopping by. That was spectacular. And any of you folks there in the crowd at the bottom of turn 5, you can go ahead and collect your souvenirs. There's probably quite a bit of polyurethane and other car parts down there. But meanwhile, we're on lap 4 now, barely into this one, 7 minutes into 45, and still taking a look at this 2 through 4 battle. Gonzaga from Sorensen, from Barry, nice and packed together. And meanwhile, back in the AM class, of course, to avoid focusing too much on the front, we got Berger from Gregory from Oderholt, 1, 2, and 3 in your AM category, and they are 10, 12, and 13 overall. And looks like my cousin Craig Gregory is under some pressure from Oderholt from that P2. So we may take a look at that as things go forward. But here we are still with Gonzaga, Sorensen, and Barry. Gonzaga doing a good job. It's tough to be in the front of one of these trains and hang on to that position due to the slipstream around here. But so far, Gonzaga proving game.
Yeah, Gonzaga's holding on to P2 beautifully right now. And, well, if he gets first and second, I don't think he'll be too disappointed with that at all. That's going to be his best round of the season by far. But of course, we've still got the pit stops to go as he lets off into turn 5 and lets Sorensen go, interestingly, and thinks that Sorensen is quicker and thinks that he will be better off with him ahead. And potentially it's a fuel save. Of course, we will find out in about 30 odd minutes time when they all pile on into the pits at around the 30-minute mark. And it's just going to be a waiting game now until then. It's a lot more timid, you have to say, than it was in that first race. Understandably so. Apart from that first lap, of course, which was just chaos. Many cars ending up on top of one another. But at the moment, it's just a couple drivers just backing off a little bit, being a bit more sensible in this longer race and just trying to get to the end of this one, saving fuel, saving tyres. And don't count out Frederick as well, who's in 5th, 1 second behind this battle up top. And he could be joining those guys momentarily. Depends what kind of lap times he puts down. Here's Kirakopoulos on the back of Iani and lifting off very heavily as you head into Canada Corner. So, yep, at the moment, it's just a fuel-saving game. And everyone just being a bit more thoughtful this time around.
Yeah, fair point. And you have to wonder, as you saw Gonzaga let Sorensen through, if fuel saving was on his mind, because he had been out there breaking the air for that whole train for several laps, and he might have taken a breath and decided he was better off running behind Sorensen for a while, trying to save some fuel. And as I said, every lap that you save is a second and a half less fueling time in the pits. So that does add up around here over a 45-minute interval. And you can see how close those cars are together. And, just look at those gaps and subtract 3 seconds. And that's what you can get for free if you can save 2 laps worth of fuel.
Yeah, definitely. And like I mentioned in that first race, saving 3 seconds in a pit stop out on track kind of goes to about 6 or 7. It really can be that massive. And kind of depends on the track, depends what kind of laps everyone else is doing. But honestly, saving time in the pits means a lot more than people think. As speaking of the pits, Reitinen has come into the pit lane around the 11-minute mark. I believe this should be scheduled, and he will go to the end, as he is one of the first drivers to properly come into the pits. Obviously had that difficult start, did the Finn, and he just decides to get his first pit stop over and done with. Here comes Adam Locke. He's just going to tuck behind him now. As we move back up front, it's 4.2 seconds between Sorensen and Lip. And, well, if you didn't think what I was talking about Lip being this quick was serious, well, you've just got evidence of how quick he can be when he's out in front. There is no stopping him today. And, well, maybe I just cursed him. Maybe he's going to get a drive-through as he comes into the pits. I don't know, but, you know, it would provide some good racing, at least, as, you know, dominant drivers provide boring racing, unfortunately.
Yeah, turning into a track day for Lip. And, yeah, interesting. Sorensen coming in a little bit early, but these cars start fuel limited with 66% fuel, and they only need 20 liters to finish the race. So the pit window is actually open on the first lap. So if a driver is getting frustrated by traffic and wants some clean air to run in, all they got to do is pop into the pits, get their fuel to finish the race, and go back out and hopefully have a better traffic situation. So that may have explained that early pit stop from Reitinen, and we may see some other folks doing that as well.
It's always a tough game on fuel in a sim like iRacing, but you know, the default strategy, as here goes Stensrud on Melis, as they've been battling for a couple laps, and now the Belgium drivers giving everyone a fair fight as they go into turn 3. Looks like Melis is just going to stay behind Ole Gunnar Stensrud at the moment, but on a sim like iRacing, the default strategy, if it's just one class, is usually just run it till it's dry. You'll be going quicker, the car will be lighter, and if you fuel at the start of the race, you're just going to be chugging along the entire time with heavy fuel loads. So you may as well just run it dry, get your pit stop over and done with, and see where you end up at the end of the race. Of course, if you don't have to pit, just fill it up. Go to the end, who cares? Do not come into the pits. That will lose you about 20 to 30 seconds. There's no point. But if you have to pit, you've just got to run it until there's nothing left in the fuel tank. Although if you are talking about multi-class, you know, there can be a bit of leeway for coming in early and trying to get ahead. Like you were mentioning, that traffic can play a huge part in some of these races. But I don't think traffic should be too bad, as there goes one of the IGL Coatings cars up the inside of Bjorkland. I believe that's a lapped car. That's Gerstenbarken, who's fighting with Bjorkland right now. I'm not sure how Bjorkland's feeling about this one. Having Skret's teammate a lap down, fighting him on the lead lap. And, well, there's no rules in iRacing, technically, for blue flags, but as a driver, you kind of have to be a bit more courteous than that.
Yeah, that kind of interesting stuff, and I'll bite my tongue and resist the temptation to make an editorial comment there. And a tough move down the inside there around Bjorkland. Who is that? Berger making that tough 3-wide move into turn 1. And yeah, that is 4 position over Bjorkland, and now Berger looks like he's got Scarrett in his sights. Or is that another lap car?
No, that's Gerstenbarken who's holding him up.
Still Gerstenbarken, the lapper there. And here comes Bjorkland again, wants to peek inside of turn 5. And Gerstenbarken, yeah, not really observing the blue flag. And as you correctly point out, Aaron, there's no obligation for that. But some people do tend to think that blue flag means you're awesome. And the people behind you may not agree.
Yeah, I mean, if I see a blue flag, I kind of understand it for Gerstenbarken, as he is trying to hold up everyone so Skret can kind of run away. And like I said, I don't think there is any rules unless this league has something against blue flags. But judging by the way Gerstenbarken's driving, I don't think there is. He's just holding everyone up and playing the team game very, very nicely. But yeah, Bjorkland will not be too happy about that at all. As we jump back up the front, the gap at the top is kind of stagnated. I think Lip is just trying to save from here on out. He's got enough of a gap that he can just chill over the next few laps. And Bjorklund's had an off. Bjorklund has unfortunately gone off the track somewhere. I don't know if that was involved with Greshenbakken. And, well, judging by the fact that Greshenbakken's come back into the pits, I'm going to take a guess and say yes.
Yeah. And here is your replay coming out of the pits. That's Greshenbakken in the lead with Bjorklund behind, approaching Canada here. And maybe.
Oh, dear.
And off. Greshenbakken goes into the kitty litter. Hard impact. There goes some body work. And I do not speak whatever Icelandic language he does, but my ears were burning there. Anyway, there's some salty language being exchanged in comms. It is still going on between Bjorklund and Greshenbakken. And my goodness, we'll just let that lie for now. But some questions about blue flags and sportsmanship there, to be sure. And here we are back to that 2-3-4 battle that has now been joined. It's now, look at those, my goodness, look at those intervals. It's Sorensen from Gonzaga, from Barry, from Friedrich, and now Larson is in on it. And that's 5 cars within about 2 seconds now as Lip continues to drive away, has stretched his P1 advantage to 5.5 and definitely turning into a track day for him.
Yeah, it's just going to be a time trial for Lip at this point. He's just going to be cruising until the end. But for these guys, it's a completely different kettle of fish. Obviously, for Friedrich, he's got a championship to think about. And, well, after that first race, it would have taken a huge hit, obviously, as James Barry probably moved up into second place in the championship. And, well, he's got James Barry 1 place ahead of him in 4th right now. And this is just going to be a bit of a mental game between all of these guys. You probably won't see very hard racing for about another 20 minutes. You might see a couple drivers making some cheeky moves here and there, especially once they start thinking about when they're going to come into the pits. As you know, this might sound obvious, but you want to be ahead of the car ahead coming into the pit lane, as that can save you about a second if you time it right. What's Gonzaga going to do? He's going to back out on the back of Sorensen, and that's what you're going to see for about the next 15 odd minutes. It's just going to be people saving, people playing mind games on each other. Am I going to go for a move? Am I not? You won't know. You won't know until I actually go for it. And Sorensen is probably in the worst position out of all of these guys right now. He's just punching a hole, like you mentioned, Gregory, for everyone else to save fuel, just to hold on to this podium position right now. And Sorensen could end up at the back of this pack come the fuel stops.
Yeah, he definitely could. And James Barry has developed a reputation as a fuel meister in this series with required fuel stops in every future race thus far. And he is kind of in a sweet spot here for lifting and coasting, try to save a couple laps of fuel. And he's got his teammate Friedrich there in front of him and another teammate behind. So wouldn't surprise me at all if they're sitting on their Discord channel kind of weighing their options and planning their pit strategy, as Sorensen up ahead, not benefiting from the draft, on full fuel burn, and maybe at a disadvantage on fueling because of it.
Yeah, definitely. And, well, sit tight, folks. This is going to be a little bit quieter for the next 10 odd minutes. You know, grab a drink, get some popcorn. I don't know, some biscuits if you're British, some cookies if you're American, whatever your food of choice is. It's just going to be the Monaco Grand Prix, basically, for the next 10 minutes. Nothing will happen, probably, unless someone makes a mistake, someone goes for a spin, or we look to the back of the pack, like Bjorklund, who has probably seen a bit of red mist today after that incident with Greshenbakken. And, well, I completely understand Bjorklund's frustrations as well. Greshenbakken's a lapped car. You know, you do not want to be fighting a different car on a different lap, as, well, Gonzaga has gone up into second place briefly. I don't know if that was a mistake from Sorensen or Gonzaga has genuinely gone for a move. And, well, I'm going to take a punt and say he did actually go for that move, judging by the way he's fighting this one, and has gone up into second place. So completely forget what I said about 20 seconds ago. It's not the Monaco Grand Prix anymore. We've just had 2 more overtakes than the entire Grand Prix put together, as there goes Sorensen trying to fight the Portuguese driver once again. Heading down to turn 5 we go, as Gonzaga lifts out of that slipstream and tucks behind the Norwegian driver once again. And like I said, mind games between all of these guys. It's just playing on their heads. And this is all it's going to be. Just honestly, the mental game that these guys have to play is a lot bigger than people think.
Yeah, and Gonzaga let him have that back. Totally no defense there. So Gonzaga going back to the plan. I have not seen a replay, but I'm imagining Sorensen had some kind of small bobble in turn 1 that kind of required Gonzaga to go through, and he let him back through there into turn 5, and they're back in that same position with Sorensen opening a hole in the air for all 4 of these cars behind, and that is going to send him into the pits before them. And Gonzaga, again, though, I don't know, I spoke too soon. Gonzaga is going to take a peek around the inside of Canada. Sorensen doesn't fight it, backs out. No, it's Gonzaga, Sorensen, Barry from Friedrich, and your 2 through 5 train there. And slowly but surely, Larson creeping up on this train. He's got it down to 0.9. He's almost close enough to get a draft on the front straight and join the party here and benefit from some of the fuel savings. And here's Larson again, is going to take a peek around the outside, and Gonzaga is going to lift and let him go. So yeah, interesting back and forth here, and with any luck, we'll get to have a chat with. That got a little dicey. With any luck, we'll have a chance to chat with some of these drivers after, and kind of find out what their strategy was, and whether or not our kind of speculation here is correct. And side by side into turn 3. Interesting stuff now. And Larson is loving this. Look at that gap dropping. Larson's got it down to 0.6. So he gets to join the fuel save party now due to this dicing up in front of this group. And now James Barry sniffing around. Interesting stuff here. We're just about exactly the halfway point here. And as I said, the pit window has been open since lap 1. So it's really up to these drivers when to pit, when it suits their fuel strategy, when it suits traffic and whatever else. So interesting stuff unfolding here.
Yeah, this is one of the more interesting parts of the race, to be fair. I genuinely thought all of these guys would just sit quietly and just be patient, but maybe the fueling is coming up a lot sooner than I thought. As well, like I mentioned, you want to be ahead of the car in front of you when you come into pit. You can sit behind them for minutes on minutes on minutes on laps. But as soon as you want to come into the pits, you have to get ahead of them. It will just gain you so much time in the pit stops. And maybe that's what Gonzaga and co are thinking right now. They are just battling hard as Sorensen does choose to lift out there. And this is just going to be, who's going to go for it? Is anyone going to risk battling this hard when we've still got about 20 minutes to go in this race? Of course, Lip has run away with it again. He's just setting fastest lap after fastest lap. And to be honest, I don't think Lip actually needs to fuel save, to be honest. He can just continue on his merry way. There goes Larson into the pits. So maybe the pit window is coming alive now as the cars reach the end of their fuel tanks and start to run a bit dry as we head towards the final few laps on these cars in terms of fuel, as once again Sorensen tries to look around the outside on Gonzaga, but just nothing doing there into turn 1. Down into turn 3 we go. Sorensen backs out there. James Barry as well on that last lap you saw gained a huge amount of time on that straight, but chooses to sit behind these two and just let them fight so he can gain all of the fuel savings, as that's what James Barry does. He is a fuel saving maestro, like Gregory said. As you can see how early he's lifting off, he has one goal in this race, and that is just save fuel as much as humanly possible. And you will see when it comes to the pit stops, he will get ahead of these two. I promise you, unless he crashes or gets a speeding penalty.
Yeah, super interesting stuff. And I'm going to be fascinated to see if he stays out or goes in with the group. There's something to be said for staying out with a lighter fuel load and putting down a couple of hot laps if you're able to stretch that fuel load out. These radicals definitely are impacted by the fuel load because they're so light. When they get light on fuel, they get faster, they get easier on the tires. So what is Barry going to do? Will he follow his teammate and Sorensen into the pit, or will he stay out and try to put down some heaters while his competitors are fueling? Can't wait to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, I'm genuinely, it's piqued my curiosity. So who is going to gain the most out of all of these guys? And maybe someone a little bit further back will get involved. Maybe someone in this pack will fall the wayside. Who knows what's going to happen when we come in eventually. I think we've probably got about 5 minutes to go on these tanks, and well, Gonzaga and Friedrich and Iani have said no. Well, I'm coming in now, as some other cars choosing to stay out a lap extra, like you were mentioning, especially drivers like Lip.
Yeah, Sorensen and Barry are going to stay out. So Sorensen still at the front here, breaking the wind, so to speak. Oh, what a horrible choice of words. Creating a slipstream opportunity for Barry. And yeah, Barry obviously trying to get the most tow that he possibly can, while all of his other teammates ducking into the pits here. And 14 or 15 laps is about as far as these radicals can go. So if Sorensen isn't completely dry, he's nearly dry. We may see him come in this time, and I'm dying to see what James does if Sorensen ducks in. Does he follow or try to put down one more fast lap?
Whew. As Sorensen was drifting his way through turn 6 there, that is very good car control there from the Norwegian. And well, those Scandinavians are known for their amazing car control, and Sorensen is showing that off as he just about manages to keep it on the track. And once again, 10.5 seconds to Christoph Lip. I genuinely don't know how that man does it. He is just in another world compared to these guys. Here's Larson, or Friedrich goes, and that's Gonzaga. Friedrich then slips on through ahead of Gonzaga. And now Friedrich has gotten ahead of his teammate. Friedrich has come out of nowhere here. And Larson as well had a pretty good pit stop. And remember, he pitted on the lap before these two and has managed to get ahead of both of them. So looks like the undercut might be the way to go. As in comes Christoph Lip. I believe this lap will be the last lap for anyone. Maybe you might see one driver go an extra lap. Who knows? As we come onto the main straight. And yes, Sorensen and Barry can go another lap.
And Sorensen as well. So Sorensen is bone dry here, folks, and he's not going to be able to go another lap. But looking at those pit times, Friedrich had a second advantage on his pit lane times over everybody around him. So that explains him jumping up. And when the pit cycle is over, he's going to reap the benefits from that. I mean, he could be potentially as high as a podium position, depending on how everybody else's pit stop goes. But Friedrich's was blazingly fast at 51.7. Gonzaga was a 52.8. Iani, a 54, might have put in a little bit too much fuel, right, and then 53.2. So an expert, fantastic fuel stop by Friedrich. And as I said, a tough pit entry here. You got to be brave, and it's possible to gain a chunk of time there on the binders before the cones heading into the pits.
Yeah, it does seem like a lot of American tracks you can be very aggressive on pit entry. Is that Sorensen going very, very wide? Once again, showing off his fantastic car control, going lawn mowing there on the exit of turn 7. And it looks like he's pushing this car very, very hard. And, well, it's his in-lap, I'm guessing, unless he just pulls out another lap out of his rear bumper. And I don't know how he'd managed to do that. The only one I guess I could understand would be able to do that is James Barry. But I'm going to have a guess this is the last lap they can go on this fuel tank. And we'll see if I'm correct about James Barry and his fuel-saving strategies, as there's only a few more corners to go until we find out. Larson, again, just like to mention, he's had an incredible stint. And he's managed to jump ahead of Friedrich Gonzaga. And wow, let's see if he can get ahead of Barry and Sorensen. If he can, he puts himself net second as James Barry overtakes Sorensen. Wow, that's super brave from the Brit. Wow.
Wow, what a move by Barry. Folks, I told you got to be brave on that pit entry. Well over 100 miles an hour, approaching those cones of doom that can get you a drive-through penalty. And watch what Barry does here. And I think he was kind of still weighing his options and followed Sorensen here. Sorensen leaks over, and Barry says, you should go faster. Watch how it's done. And Barry sneaks past him on the pit entry. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. And we'll see what kind of time he gets out of that overall. But my goodness, what a move by Barry. And meanwhile, Lip is having a yawner up front, and that is going to remain. And here comes Barry. He's going to come out in P2, and here is Larson, Friedrich, and Gonzaga behind. And that pit strategy and that huge move on the pit entry has put Barry into P2. Wow, what a move by Barry.
It's been an absolute disaster for Sorensen. I don't know what on earth he was doing on that pit entry, I've got to say. As the overall pit time, he spent 15 extra seconds in the pits than anyone around him, which is just incredible. And it goes to show something as simple as pit entry and exit, you have to practice it, as it can lose you so much time. As Sorensen was fighting for second, now he's fighting barely for P10. Honestly, it's heartbreak for the Norwegian.
Yeah, that is unreal. That is a 16-second delta between Sorensen, and I'm just going to throw out Friedrich as an example as one of the faster pit stops, and see what Barry did. Barry, a 51.1. That's the lowest pit stop time on the board, and you see how I did it, or how I did it. I'm projecting here. How he did it. Like I told you, you got to be brave on that pit entry. Barry showed how it was done, and Sorensen must have stopped for a beverage or a tire or to have his windshield clean, because that 107 is atrocious.
The thing is I don't think it doesn't look like he lost it at all in the actual pit box. His actual pit box time was pretty good. It was 11.9 compared to Friedrich, who was 11.7. So he wasn't too far off. It was just pit entry and exit where he was genuinely terrible. And just something as simple as that has lost him 16 seconds. And, well, you saw on entry just how timid he was, and was so scared to break the pit limit speed that it's just practically ruined his race. And a driver who at one point was leading in the first heat is, now just fighting for scraps all the way down in P10 with his teammate Otterholt, and that's probably where he's going to remain for the remainder of this race. He could get Berger and Scarrett ahead if he puts the hammer down, but wow, that's real heartbreak for Sorensen. But James Barry, like I mentioned, the pit stop maestro has done it again.
Yeah, that was insane. And I don't proclaim to be Michael, Rolf, or even Willie Schumacher, but I know that when you leave that, even when you're pitting, you drive out of turn 14 like you're under race conditions, run it through the gears floored, and you're well over 100 miles an hour approaching those cones. And Sorensen just didn't have a taste for it. And man, oh man, that has got to hurt. He drove a fantastic race up until that point, and those little details, and you can put down hot laps all day, but if you're in a race that requires a pit stop, you got to practice that pit entry, and Sorensen bitten there. And meanwhile, up front, it is Lip, track day, 9-second gap behind from Barry, from Friedrich, and about 0.5 between those two teammates. Larson still hanging around as well. Gonzaga hanging around, so 2 through 5 are still stuck together with just a little over a second between them. And taking a look now at Karakopolis, and that is looking forward at Iani, as they head into Canada here. And actually, Denis has been hanging around the back of Iani for much of this race, kind of driving together. So maybe he's biding his time to make a move, or maybe he just can't find a way past Iani. But these two, part of this tight-knit radical community and well familiar with each other, so they spent plenty of time on track together.
Yeah, all of these drivers know each other fantastically well, like you mentioned. They've all raced against each other for hundreds of hours at this point, and especially this season, they've all got to know each other, how each one drives, how each one prepares for races. And in this battle up for the podium now, it's Barry, Friedrich, and Gonzaga, who are all part of the same team. And then Larson, who's a little bit lonely, missing his teammate of Sorensen, who was here, but has now fallen all the way down to 10th, like we mentioned. And, well, Larson's going to try and look up the inside of Friedrich, but just was a little bit too far back on this occasion. And, we've only got about 9.5 minutes to go in this race. It's been a pretty good one so far, but this is what the feature race is. It's mind games, it's fuel saving, it's just utter chaos sometimes, and usually it ends up with Christoph ending up winning because, well, he just has too much pace, to be honest. He's just absolutely incredible. He doesn't look like he fuel saved all that much, but he didn't really need to. He's got a big enough gap up at the top that he can just do whatever he wants.
Yeah, Lip about 3 or 4 seconds longer in the pits than the other front runners, to be sure. But I don't know, Aaron. I'm thinking driver of the day at this point, and not sure which of these two teammates I'm leaning towards. Barry for that epic move that got him all those positions on the pit entry, or Friedrich, who has overcome an accidental curse by yours truly, and is up 14 positions to be on the podium as things sit right now. Some fantastic tries by both of those teammates today.
I think it is really difficult to say. I think as a driver of the day, including the first race, you probably give it to Barry, to be honest. He's just been the most consistent. And, well, he is second at the moment. He is ahead of Friedrich, but I do understand that Friedrich has put on an absolutely incredible performance in this race to get himself up into the podium spots. And, well, it doesn't look like anyone has the pace to compete with Lip, so this is probably the best Friedrich was going to do either way. And, well, it could get better for him. Let's see what happens between himself and Barry. Are they going to be allowed to race as they are teammates? Is it just going to be coasting until the end and they're going to finish how they are? Are they going to work together to try and get rid of Larson? You know, who knows over these next few laps what's going to happen. Here is Kirakopoulos going for that move on Iani. This is for P6. It's been coming for the last few laps. Up into turn 6 we go. And it looks like it's going to go the way of Kirakopoulos. But Iani did get a great exit around the outside through there. A side-by-side through turn 7. Coming now down towards turn 8. This braking zone can be difficult as well. Round the outside goes Iani again. Iani holding it beautifully around the outside. Now onto the inside of the carousel. This should be position for Iani. If Kirakopoulos can hold it around the outside of here, that is spectacular. But he can't quite do it. And it's just going to be a drag race all the way from the kink down to Canada Corner. And Kirakopoulos has got a tough driver in front of him to get ahead of. It's going to look like I think Iani could get this one stuck up into 6th place, but Kirakopoulos breaks late round the outside into Canada Corner. And that is a brave overtake by the Swiss driver. Fantastic stuff. And moves himself up into 6th. That doesn't mean this battle is over, though, but for the moment, Kirakopoulos' advantage on the track. And that is some bravery from him.
Yeah, what a great sequence. Our producer, Lewis, giving you all of that beautifully. And I love that outside move into Canada. It's a common move to cover the inside there, and you really have to be brave on the brakes and confident in the grip and the marbles to make that outside move stick. And you saw Denis there pull that off perfectly, and that was good for him for P6. And you know, at some point here, we're ticking down. We got about 6 minutes left. Maybe we'll take a look back. There's some action going on in the AM category as well. I'm looking at Berger and Oderholt. Looks like there's about a 0.3 between those two. It's Berger, Oderholt, and Gregory currently on the AM podium. And there they are. If I can spy who is who in that lineup. Haven't spent a lot of time back here so far. Oh yeah, and there is Berger. He's in the 25. So that is that is your P1 and AM there, and he's tucked in right behind pro driver Scarrett, and he's got Oderholt behind him, and Gregory with a substantial gap back. But is Oderholt going to try to get something done here? Only about 6 minutes left, and that is P1 and P2 on the AM podium. So the good racing from top to bottom of this Radical grid, as is always the case. These races are fantastic, as we said. These drivers are very closely knit, spend a lot of time practicing and racing together, high level of trust, great car control, and man, these Radical races are fantastic and getting better every week.
Absolutely spot on. These Radicals do provide some fantastic racing. And, well, Radicals always seem to do that no matter what era of Radical car you drive, both in real life and on sim, whether it's the SR3, SR6, SR8, SR10, honestly. It's just fantastic for racing. And, well, you're seeing that on the sim now. as now they've kind of broken into two separate battles between Friedrich and Barry, and Larson and Gonzaga, as Iani has come into the pit lane further back. It looks like he might have underfueled there, unfortunately, for the Italian. And what looked like a potential P6 for him is now going to look like, well, probably P14, I'd say. That's unlucky for him. And Friedrich did end up getting ahead of James Barry. And maybe Barry's just having to fuel save a little bit more than the drivers around him because of that shorter pit stop time. But either way, a third place for him would be spectacular. And of course, as you mentioned, Gregory, Friedrich from practically last all the way up to second place. It's just amazing from him and goes to show why he is in this championship fight. But at the end of the day, he did drop a lot of points from Lip, as that's a move. Gabriel Berger up the inside of Scarrett. And, well, just in this battle, you were talking about Oterholt trying to get ahead of Scarrett and Berger. Oterholt set the fastest lap of the race a couple laps ago, which is absolutely ridiculous. He's the only driver in this entire race who's gotten into the 58s. Actually, no, him and Sorensen both are into the 58s, but Oterholt, an amateur driver, currently holds the fastest lap. So fair play from the 99.
Yeah, absolutely. And Berger did himself a favor there, managed to put Scarrett in between himself and Overholt. That'll give him a little breathing room down the stretch. And looking back at Iani and that mystery pit stop, I'm looking at his pit time. That was a drive-through, Aaron. So the pit lane here at Road America has bitten a second driver. Apparently, Iani violating the speed limit in the pits and had to do a drive-through, and that dropped him way down the order. He has now lost 8 positions from his starting position. He was involved in some nice battles closer to the front, and that is over now due to that infraction. Tough luck for Iani, and he'll join Sorensen in the Road America Pit Hall of Shame.
I believe a drive-through would be for going over the incident limit, which is interesting to say the least, as I believe if you do speed in the pit lane, that's more like a 40-second stop and hold. So he's clearly had one too many off-tracks, maybe a bit of contact between him and another driver. Here we go then. This is the battle up at the front from Barry, Friedrich, Larson, and Gonzaga. And, well, 3 of these guys are teammates, but it looks like they have free reins to fight one another, which is what we love to see. Larson is in this sandwich right now, and he did produce the fastest lap of the race on that last lap, a 58.5. An incredible lap time from himself, obviously helped by that slipstream, but either way, an outstanding lap time from Larson. And can he manage to get himself onto that podium? It's imperative that Barry and Friedrich are on it, obviously for their championship hopes. But can Larson cause a bit of an upset today, as this is going to be the second to last lap? Lip is just coming round Canada corner, as he will be going white flag when he crosses the line for the final time. And this is going to be the second to last opportunity. Is Larson going to go for the move? This time he's not. And he's just going to wait patiently. Is Gonzaga going to play a bit of a team game here? Is he going to try and send it on Larson to distract him and put him off from going for a move? What's going to happen on this final lap? We don't know. But that's the point of racing. We're here to find out which one of these crazy drivers can just send it on one another. I was about to use a word. Again, I can't use.
Yeah, Larson sitting pretty here. I could imagine a 2-for-1 here, but that gap, maybe he was distracted by Gonzaga. That gap opened up a little bit on the entry to turn 14, so he's not going to have the run it looked like he was going to have, and he'll have one more opportunity here, clear opportunity into turn 5, or we'd have seen one beautiful outside move into Canada. So not over for Larson, but an inability to get anything done on turn 1 is going to hurt his chances. And obviously Barry and Friedrich, as I said, wouldn't surprise me a bit if they were on Discord together right now talking about defense of a hard charging Larson, and they have another teammate behind. They could potentially push Larson back into Friedrich and take another bite out of his positioning.
Well, it looked like there that Friedrich was not planning to go for the move on James Barry, which is very sensible. He was just trying to defend from Larson there and did so superbly. It's fantastic teamwork from all of these guys to stay ahead. And, well, the only way it could get better for them is if Gonzaga could get ahead of Larson and see if they can finish second, third, and fourth in this race. That would be great for them as a team and morale. But Larson has shown some good pace today. And, well, I think the gaps might have opened up a little bit too much from these guys to be able to go for a move. Looks like Scoret's had an issue further down the order. It's going to be a final lap battle between the amateur drivers of Berger and Oterholt. Into Canada corner we go. Looks like Frederick's backed out once again, just defending from the Norwegian of Larson behind. And they've once again worked as a team superbly. And you have to take your hats off for them. But someone who you'll have to take your clothes off at this rate is Christoph Lipp. The German driver has put on a superb performance here at Road America to win by 9 seconds ahead of James Barry at the moment. Is it going to be a run to the line? Looks like Frederick might be going for it. It is going to be a run to the line. It's going to be Frederick who gets second place. And that is a fantastic result for him and the championship. James Barry will be heartbroken as he finishes 5 thousandths of a second behind his teammate. And Larson also just about got 4th place ahead of Gonzaga. Kirakopoulos in 6th place. Sorensen ended up in 7th. A good comeback at the end as Craig Gregory and Bjorklund crossed the line in unison. As Oterholt, I think, made a mistake on that last lap, trying to overtake Berger, and unfortunately drops down to 10th place. And yeah, Berger wins out in the arms. Reitinen now crosses the line as we just wait for everyone else now to finish this race. And wow, what an amazing set of races we've had today.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. These radicals do not disappoint. Road America, always a classic, and a shocking finish there between Friedrich and Barry. Lewis is going to show us a few angles of that here when we're finished with all the cars taking the checker. But I'm fascinated to learn what happened there. Did Barry get a bad exit out of 14? Was he worried about Larson behind? But 0.005, that's one of the lower intervals that you're going to see in any race. And wow, fantastic stuff. And hats off to all these drivers. Another great show by this radical community.
Yeah, honestly, it's a shame that we don't do this every single week. And while this championship will go on all the way until the end of the year, wow, you just have to take your hats off for these guys. And I'm kind of just realizing that I said I take my clothes off for Christoph Lipp, and it's sort of dawning on me. Apologies, Christoph Lipp. I did not mean anything by that, but it was a fantastic drive from him. And Bjorklund there doing some burnouts across the line. I don't think I've ever seen anyone being able to do burnouts in this car. That's very impressive indeed. But wow, like you mentioned, radicals once again performing on the race day when it matters. And here is a replay. I just think it was just the slipstream. The slipstream is so powerful in these cars. He barely needed it. He just ducked out of it. And maybe that was Barry letting Friedrich through. It looked a bit suspicious, admittedly, without too much slipstream. Maybe it was for the championship. I'm not sure. But either way, it was a fantastic finish. So who cares?
Yeah, it was a fantastic finish. And it did look like a little lift from Barry. He took a shallow exit out of 14. And my goodness, James does like to hang around in our interview room. So with any luck, we can get him in here and ask him about that. But my goodness, Aaron, what a fantastic race. And God, such a pleasure to help you guys out with this and cover for Sam. But there are your results. And Aaron, why don't you run through those, and I'll take a peek outside and see if anybody's waiting to come in.
Well, I hope we can talk to our drivers. It was just amazing from all of them. And after 45 minutes of spectacular racing, it's Christoph Lipp 9.1 seconds ahead of Andreas Friedrich. And normally that result would look fairly normal. But when you realize that Friedrich had come from 17th in that last race to 2nd, it's just amazing what he was able to do. And genuinely, hats off to him from what has been a tough day, but ended on a happy note for him. James Barry put up a good performance to finish 3rd. And Larson put up a good fight in the end, but just was not enough to get ahead of the two drivers in front of him. He ends up in 4th. Gonzaga gets a 1st and 5th today, his best result of the season. And the rest of the order goes as follows. It's then Kurakopoulos in 6th place, Sorensen in 7th place. Gabriel Berger wins in the amateur category. I believe he has gained a huge chunk of points on his 2 championship rivals. So good day for him. Alexander Skurret in 9th place. Ota Holt in 10th place. Underrated performance by him. Bjorklund ends up 11th place. Craig Gregory in 12th. Iani 13th. Wrighton in 14th. Guy in 15th. Stenstrud in 16th. Mellis 17th. Lock in 18th. The Lever 19th. Robertson in 20th place. De Graaf in 21st. And then your 2 drivers who did not make the finish was Gresham Barkin and Gordon Haug in 22nd and 23rd. So a relatively short field today to what we're used to, but you wouldn't be able to tell. It was amazing from start to finish.
Yeah, fantastic race. And we have got a number of folks outside here waiting to speak to us and waiting to speak to our audience here. So we will start with Christoph Lipp, your winner today in a track day. Christoph, great drive today, really dominant. No one really threatened you. So what was that race like for you? And how do you hold your concentration when there's no one near you like that?
Yeah. So first of all, it was not an easy race, to be honest. I mean, first of all, the sprint was crazy. This was tough fighting, and unfortunately, some netcode with Kjetil took him out, tried to leave him some space, and yeah, we chatted afterwards. I think it's okay. Was netcode, and I think Lasse lost it behind me, so that was really tough. And yeah, I was also happy for George to win that one. And the second race was, yeah, it was really difficult. I tried to get away in the beginning. I think I did a lot of qualifying laps until the pit stop. And then I almost messed it up in the pits. And afterwards, then was really cruising.
Yeah, a little bit of a slow pit stop. You're about 3 or 4 seconds off of the faster pit stops, but you still managed to finish with about a 10-second interval. So really a fantastic race for you. And what do you think about the next venue, or any thoughts about the next event here?
Where are we going to drive? You know that? I have no idea.
Oh, actually, that was me. That was me faking it because I don't know where.
Yeah, now we're going to find it out. Don't worry. Let's say it's
All
Olten.
right.
Might be Olten, but I don't know. I'm looking forward
right.
anyhow. The drive,
Well,
the races are cool, so I'm looking forward to any race.
Well, if it is Olten, these radicals are super entertaining at Olten Park. And yeah, myself and Christoph Lipp both busted there, not knowing the schedule. That was pretty funny. But thank you so much for coming by and speaking with us, Christoph. And before we wrap up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to today?
Yeah, to my brother Sebastian. He can't race still due to his injury, and all the other guys racing on the track. It's a lot of fun and fair fights. And yeah, cheers to everyone.
Yeah, well, it was a fantastic show. Christoph, thank you so much for stopping by, and thanks for being one of the front runners in this great radical community. Super entertaining.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, folks, that was Christoph Lipp, your P1 winner by a country mile. And waiting in the interview waiting area here, let's bring in James Barry. And Aaron, you can interrogate him about that finish, and don't forget to ask him about that pit entry as well.
Well, it's nice to talk to a fellow countryman. James Barry now joins us, and well, that was a chaotic race and a half, James. And well, just let's get your thoughts and feelings on both races from your perspective.
Oh, I loved it, to be honest, because firstly, George, hats off to George. He was amazing this week and amazing that sprint race. And then in the future race, it was just really fun with him and Andreas. It was really tactical. Also in the first race, it was me and Myra and Yanni behind the Norwegian guys, and they had their huge crash. So we were just kind of waiting for that to happen. And we got rewarded in the end for that. And then second race, yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I was just saving fuel and talking to my teammates. And yeah, we played it really good in the end. So really happy.
And well, we have to ask, that pit entry on that feature race, were you a little bit confused seeing how slow Sorensen was going into the pits and you just breezed on by?
Yeah, of course. When you're following someone into the pits, you're thinking about, I got to make sure I don't crash into the back of him, and then suddenly he starts backing off. So Yeah, I don't know. I was just talking to Gabriel. He said maybe he was switching his fuel or something, or his tires. So I don't know why he was so slow, but yeah, I just had to go past him.
Yeah, it looked like a bit of a weird entry for him, but you managed to gain a huge chunk of time coming out of the pits. And was it difficult holding off your teammate Frederick in the end? And speaking of the end, did you let him pass there, or was that just a brutal run to the line?
I let him pass because when he went past me, he then started putting a gap, and I said to him, Andreas, can you please let me have your slipstream because I want to stay ahead of Schetter Larsen. And then he lifted off a lot to the point where then I had to go past him on the next lap because Schetter was then attacking us. So then I said to Andreas, okay, just stay behind me. I'll try and let you pass at the end because you've obviously done me a huge favor. Unfortunately, just about managed to pull it off.
Well, I mean, I genuinely was just a loss. You two running to the line was spectacular either way. But
Oh,
well, it was very entertaining nonetheless. But seeing as we don't know what the next round is, it might be Alton Park, but I think we'll have to wait for the schedule next
is.
season. But yeah, just going into the next round, how are you feeling for Alton Park?
Well, honestly, I mean, today, my quali, I was only ninth in quali, and at Alton, everyone's very fast there. And, I'm really high up in the standings. I'm going to be, I think, I think I'm going to be second now. But honestly, like, these guys are so fast. Everyone's so fast. And I'm just going to have to do what I can. But anything can happen at these races. So we'll see what happens. I can't predict anything.
Yeah, you've pretty much hit the nail on the head there. Anything can happen in these, but thank you for coming in, talking to us, James. And as always, anyone you want to give a mention or shout out to for this third place?
Just my teammates again, Andreas, George, and Myron. It's really good doing it every week with them. So thank you guys. And thanks to you guys.
Oh, what sweet words from James Barry there. Congratulations on your podium today, and good luck for next round.
All right. I drank about before he heard your farewell, so he's going to have to get that from the broadcast. But we still have a couple more folks. We've got Jorge Gonzaga here to speak with us. Looks like he pulled in at P5, had a fantastic race. And how about that sprint race? Jorge, is that your first P1 in this series that you pulled off in the sprint?
Absolutely. I'm like popping the champagne here. I'm super happy. Woohoo. No, you have no idea. Like, it's been a struggle and around these fast guys. And yeah, to be able to win against Christoph and Lasse is no easy feat. I was a bit lucky with Lasse, like losing a bit on that. But I had to make that bold move, and it paid off. So yeah, I'm super, super happy. Like, it's the height of the day.
Yeah, fantastic drive, man, and I try to be as unbiased as possible, but I was definitely cheering for you. We've spoken many times, and it's always a joy to have you up and share in your positive energy and good attitude. So fantastic drive, man. It was great to see you pulling that P1. So very well done. And tell us about that. When you talked about the epic move, are you talking about that outside pass into Canada? And if you are, tell us a little bit about that.
Against Christoph. Well, no, I think it was. Oh, sorry, I don't know the names, but yeah, that weird left on top of the hill before the archer where the radical logos are. Sorry,
yes,
I
turn
don't know
six.
the names.
Yeah,
exactly.
under
So
the cheese bridge.
Yeah, so Lass went a bit on the grass, and I saw the opportunity, and then on the right-hander, I knew I had to make a move. I couldn't go too much wide, otherwise I would just shoot out to the grass again, and I think I closed too much, so I do have to apologize to Lass. I might have not let him much space, but it had to be done at that point. Like, I had the momentum, I had the speed, and I had the confidence, and if I wouldn't, I knew I wouldn't have any other chance. So yeah, for me, I think it was kind of the highlight, but also, trying to be bold with Christoph, defending him on T1 a couple of times. He's way faster than I am, so trying to keep behind him, and we were talking after, he's a really great guy, and it's amazing to race with him, and to be fair, with all of them, even on with last on race 2, there was like we had a bit of heated moments in trying to step away, but so much respect between both and a lot of space, and I want to thank him for that. So it just makes everything entertainment and worth in the end of the day, right? So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm conflating the Friday race with today, and now I'm recalling what you're talking about. A long side-by-side sequence that started in turn 5, went all the way to turn 8, went all the way almost to Canada of you guys driving side-by-side this afternoon. So yeah, great driving by both of you, and great trust and car control, the kind of stuff that we always see that makes these radicals so entertaining. So really great stuff, Jorge, and a great drive. Congratulations again on that P1. And as we wrap it up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to?
Yeah, the shout out to insert name e-racing team. Obviously, the guys are this year. We've been this team is amazing. Like Andreas, James, Myron. Like I feel so privileged to be racing with these guys, and they've been doing such a great job. We're leading the team's championship by a lot, so it just shows the potential, and so a big shout out to them and the league as well, Sandro, Nihad, everyone who makes these Sundays possible, and of course to you guys. Like you guys doing a great job in commentating every race, and makes us like be on the edge of the seat watching the races back. So thank you so much for everyone. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome, Ori. It was our pleasure, and congrats again on a fantastic drive.
Yeah, cool deal. Thank you. Okay, thank you, guys.
All right, and that was Jorge Gonzaga, P1 in our sprint race and P5 in the feature. A great day of driving for him at Road America, and coming up next, we'll have Aaron speak with Gabriel Berger, who managed to move up 4 positions and finish, P1 in the amateur class. So a great showing by him. It looks like he was P8 overall, and again, P1 in amateur. So here is Gabriel Berger.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, it was, I thought rather naively after the first lap of the feature race that it was going to be a bit of an easy one. And then Christopher just kept gaining and gaining and gaining. And it was kind of lucky that we had Lasse and Alexander with us to give me a bit of a tow, really, and just keep me away from Christopher for those last, 5-6 laps or so.
Well, I mean, it was just a brilliant performance by you, and well, this does kind of put your championship kind of back on, as Laliva had a horrid second race that time round. And do you still believe that you could potentially be in with a fight for this amateur championship? Of course, Euler didn't turn up today, but either way, it's surely got to boost your confidence.
Well, just as you've been saying that, Tom said in the other Discord that he can't make a few of the races, it looks like, later this season. So, I think if he's here, definitely the last few races have shown that he's been the dominant force. But if we get a few races without him, then it might help some of us just drag our ways up slowly.
Well, it's not going to be easy. Like I mentioned, there's a couple of other drivers in there who could throw a spanner in the works. Like I mentioned, you've got the likes of Oterholt, who was very, very quick today, but just did not have a good performance. Yeah, I saw a couple of times he was putting in fastest laps in like 11th place, which is just mental. So do you think he could potentially get better and better and compete for race wins like you and Laliva have done this season?
Undoubtedly, I haven't really seen it, been around him much on track so far this season. So it was good to see some different names up there all the time. And if he continues to show the pace he did today, then he's going to win races possibly from the next time out.
Yeah, we always love to see a competitive field, no matter what class we're doing. And so we're going into Alton Park in the next round, it looks like, and it's going to be a completely different kettle of fish to what we had today. Are you looking forward to racing at a home track?
It's one I usually do quite well at. I haven't looked to see exactly which layout it is we're doing, because there are about 8 of them. But it's a track, it favours exit speed more than entry, which is generally how I prefer to drive. So I'll see how I can carry on there.
Well, we hope that you can get another good result like you did today. Well, thank you for coming and talking with us, Gabriel. And as usual, before we let you go, anyone you want to give a mention or shout out to?
Mainly the 3 guys I was with at the end, so Lasse, Alexander, and Christopher. Just through, especially because we're in different classes, just some really good respectful racing between the classes there as well.
Yeah, it looked fantastic between all of you guys. Well, congratulations on the first place in AM today, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, and I don't see anyone else hanging around outside, so that is going to conclude our interviews today. And as the weekend winds on, folks, remember we are not just about these fantastic radicals here at Apex Racing TV. Monday, we'll start the week off strong with Ricmatech Sports Cars, Prototype, and GT mixed class racing at the tight confines of Mid-Ohio. So that's going to be action-packed, and we have some of the best cars, the best drivers, and best tracks on the iRacing service on YouTube throughout the week. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification icon so that you don't miss any of the action. And my goodness, Aaron, what a fantastic race. Was so fortunate to be able to sit in for Sam here today, and enjoyed working with you too. And what are your thoughts going forward to the next race, which may or may not be Alton Park?
Yeah, this calendar has gone a bit topsy-turvy sometimes, and I think it kind of depends all on what happens next season. But either way, if it is Alton Park, I think it's going to be, like I mentioned, it's just genuinely the opposite of what we saw today. We saw some fantastic side-by-side racing today, slipstreaming all the way throughout the race. And Alton Park, no, you're not going to be able to do that. It's like one of the narrowest tracks on the service, and that's kind of what you get with English tracks, to be honest. You know, take Cadwell Park as well. Apparently that might be coming to iRacing soon, so God forbid it's narrower than Monaco. But Alton Park should be more about strategy and just trying to find the gap ahead of your opponent, and it should be an interesting race to say the least, and could provide some shocks as well in case some cars go for maybe optimistic moves.
Yeah, and Alton is a blast, and of course these radicals designed and built over in the UK, so kind of defending their home turf, and absolutely these cars do great at tracks like that. And that's the first time hearing about Cadwell. That could be interesting. I recall that from GT Legends, and what I recall the most about it is a large tree that's that actually is touching the edge of the track coming onto that front straight. So I would love to see that one come back. But my goodness, I think that is gonna wrap it up for us if nobody has anything else. Indeed. So J.R. Gregory here on behalf of my colleague Aaron Smith and our producer Louis Araya. Sam Fitzpatrick will be back for the next round, and thanks for welcoming me to this fantastic Radical broadcast. Thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.